stop here. I don't want to disturb this little one who's out on its own a little bit. But we had a question from MJ about elephant eyes. So regardless of whether or not they have divided bottoms, they do have eyes on either side of their head. And MJ was wondering what kind of vision they have. So do they have a blind spot in the same way that antelope do, in that they have side vision, perfect side vision, but they do have that blind spot right in front of them, or if they can focus on things straight in front of them? And I don't know. I think they might have a bit of a blind spot right in the midline of their vision, but they can focus in front of them, and you can see that. You can definitely see that in the way that they feed. Something I've never thought about before, but if you watch the way that they coordinate the motion of their trunk, and with bringing it to their mouths and grabbing the part of the plant that they want, and I know I've mentioned many times that that trunk is so dexterous it could pick up a toothpick off the ground. Or in this case drag an entire tree over and make off with most of the branch. Look at how that tree is returned to upright position with half of it missing. Oh, never mind, just going to grab the other half. And MJ, I don't know if they have a small blind spot in their front. I imagine they might do, just because of the width of their heads. But just judging by the way that they coordinate with their trunk, I don't sense. They are far more reliant on hearing and smell than they are on eyesight, but they can see. They can certainly see better than rhino can. We inch forward and see if we can get a little bit of a better view of these ellies. They are toppling themselves away. Loop us in and see if we can figure out a nice position to get a better view of these ellies. It is very, very thick in here. Interestingly, I believe that the directors have offered us a way of answering Robin's question. So as I reposition a little bit, they are going to provide you with a slow motion replay of elephants, or at least of Andrew's beautiful shot of the elephant eye. Have a close look and let us see what conclusions we can draw from it. I will see you in a little bit. Welcome back, and there we have the answer to our question. It is very definitely a round pupil and not vertical or horizontal slit in the same way, for example, something like a mongoose or a horse, something along those lines might be. Now the unfortunate news is that the elephants are heading straight to Nyala Road North. Now I know that signal gets really, really bad on this road. I'm going to try and get us a last view of them as they move across, but then I think we might have to say goodbye to them for now. Let's see if we can get them before our signal disappears. There are just occasional signal black holes in the area, but we'll push it for as long as we can. Oh no, hold on, I'm crazy. No, that's okay, we're good. We're on Hyena Road, never mind. No problems at all. I just thought I was further east than I actually am. Oh, okay, problem solved. Let's do a loop and get a little bit closer. Oh, that's a relief. Oh, very much tucked away in quite thick bush though, so I'm going to try and find a nice easy way in that doesn't in any way disturb them while we move through. word, I can't believe I forgot about an entire road on the map. You would think, having pulled that buffalo kill in about 5 times, whoop, hole, found a hole, I would remember where I am. Go around this way, see if we can find them. I have found them again. It's just quite thick. To stop here for the moment, since this is the general direction that the elephants are moving in, and let them slowly come to us if that's what they would like to do. I can't really bash any further in without disturbing them. Oh, we have that wonderful replay of the elephant's eye, and a big thank you to Gregory and Donna and many others, including Sharon, who sent through that the pupil is round. Thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed that little short replay of a rather special moment with the Ellie. Here we go. Once again we could actually see that eye fairly nice and close every time she pops out from behind the bush. Trying to work out. Oh, perfect, she got it. What it is she's feeding on. It's one of the bush willows. I think it might be a velvet bush willow. Oh, what a beautiful setting to have an elephant sighting in. Starting to feel the wind pick up a little bit. I feel as though we're in some kind of eye of the storm almost. Just looking around us. We've got these beautiful open skies above us and then just clouds everywhere I look. Apparently the little baby has slightly failed to dispose of his dung entirely, and that will definitely largely be due to the fact that his diet is mainly mother's milk at the moment and only just a little bit in the way of plant vegetation, which hasn't given him the same level of roughage that the adults have. Shame, man. But this little boy is going to be, you can see how tightly bonded he is with mom, and that bond between elephants is a lifelong thing, even for young males. Now, Monica, I know that you're wondering how long he will stay with his mom, and he will stay sort of right close to her side for probably about another year to another year and a half, until she has her next baby naturally. Hello, Dacre. Where did you pop out from? Obviously been disturbed by the elephants. But he will be right close to his mother until she has her next calf in about a year to a year and a half's time. Maybe even 2 years until she has her next baby. And once she does, then he will still be closely bonded to her. So even though she has another baby to look after and she might push him away a little bit, he will still spend time in the herd and he'll still have that bond with her. Just might not be as close as before. And it's only when he reaches about between 10 to 15 years, depending on how fast he grows, and when he reaches sexual maturity, then he'll start to get pushed out of the herd and it'll be time for him to leave. But even then, I would argue that he would still know his mother if he ever met her at a later stage. And that bond is so, so important. That upbringing and that herd joint teaching and education that this little boy will have is so important to his future. And there were cases where young males had grown up outside of the normal natural herd structure that they would normally be in. And once they reached puberty at around 15 years old and started going into must, which is that time of heightened testosterone that all male elephants go through at regular intervals, they started playing up in a big way. And it took the introduction of some big bulls to help to calm them. Oop, I was about to move, but there's an elephant behind me, so I'm not going to. It's fortunate I didn't. It always pays to look before you reverse, not only in the city, but also in the bush. Hello, girl. Where have you been hiding? Actually, I think this might be one of the young bulls that we've just been talking about. Grab my binoculars to see. It's a bit thick. I think it is a young male. Oh no, hold on. Nope, female. Sorry. Doing a bit of contorting there to try and have a look. She has snuck in right behind us. Alright, so we were talking about when the young males come into a time of their life known as a must cycle. And that's spelled M-U-S-T-H and pronounced must. And Con, in the Netherlands, you were wondering what the signs are for elephant bulls that do go into must. One of the most obvious is the secretions from the temporal glands on either side of their foreheads, near their temples, where their temples would be. And they start to secrete a mixture of very strong hormonal type secretions, and you can smell it. It's got a very musky scent to it. And they also get a little bit swollen around the temporal glands as well, because those glands are working overtime to produce the hormones and the pheromones that they're putting out there to the females. The other symptom, and it sort of builds up gradually, so the must cycle starts, and for older bulls can last up to a month or more. So it builds gradually. They start to secrete just a little bit, then just a little bit more, until it's running down their face, all the way down to the bottom of their jaw. And the other thing that they start to do towards the heightened period of their must cycle is they very often have an erect penis, but they also dribble urine almost constantly. And it starts to build up an almost greeny type layer on the inside of their back legs. So if you see a male elephant walking down the road with urine-stained legs, that's the sign that he's in the height of his must, and at that point he becomes very, very smelly. And quite often in elephant sightings, I've pretty more or less predicted that there's a bull in must just by sniffing the air. The other thing that they get, and both the females and the males have their own version of this. For the males in must, they have what's known as a must walk, and it's almost like the elephant water walk, but with their heads held quite high up and the ears above the level of the shoulders. And they walk with attitude when they're in must. You can see it. And then in terms of the other signs, watch how other elephants behave around them. The females in estrus love them, and they will show a preference for mating with a bull in must as opposed to one that isn't. Now, I'm going to reposition, but for the moment I believe that Scott has something to show you. So let's head across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
didn't hear the first part of Nick, so she wanted.
Welcome back, everyone, and what a beautiful sight this is. The beauty continues to amaze me as this afternoon unfolds. We have been searching for any further sign of Sandila. I took a short walk, we drove around, but it is so incredibly thick in the area that we last saw him heading into that he could be lying up anywhere just meters away from us and we could drive past without seeing him. So I think we're going to call it quits on searching for him, because we're going to try and race off to the hyena den and see if there's any action unfolding there. It's always a tricky thing to do, deciding where to go on safari, but I actually haven't been to the new hyena den and I'm quite excited to get there. And I know a lot of you guys love going there, and we didn't stop in this morning. So let's see if we don't get lucky this afternoon. They could well not be active. So that is a reality. Even though we know where the den site is, it's not necessarily going to be a hive of activity. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to go there and check. But as we drive there, I'm going to continue scanning for any sign of this leopard, or potentially his mother moving back into the area to collect him, to take him back to kill. A dyke just ran across the road. You may have got a glimpse of that. A dyke is a very small antelope. Ideally need now is a leopard up in a marula tree, but what we're going to do is just imagine, because we have marula trees which are plentiful, but imagine if there was a leopard silhouetted up there. Now it's going to happen one day. Look at these colors. Imagine if out of the bottom of a screen a leopard just came rocketing up into this tree. It could happen, but I don't think today is going to be our lucky day. I'm looking forward to seeing more of leopards up in trees. We haven't been very lucky this winter. They do certainly use the marula trees in winter to hoist their kills, but because the trees have got no leaves, doesn't provide them with any shade or cover, so we tend to find them more in the summer months up in the marula trees. It's harder to spot them because the same tree that we're looking at now is going to be covered in dense foliage. Very happy to hear that my father is watching this evening's show, and I wonder what the weather's like down in Durban. It's about 1,000 kilometers from here, my hometown. How's it, Dad? Hope all is well. And I think I'm due a phone call, so I will give you a ring a little bit later. Or you are due a phone call, rather. And we're going to continue rushing off to the hyena den site and send you back to Jamie, who's repositioned and ready for you guys. Enjoy, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Welcome back, and we have managed to reposition a little bit. We're never going to manage to get too close to these ellies, but we did manage to catch this little one perfectly positioned in front of the sun and having a snack. And what a beautiful image that makes for. And the storm has cleared for now. It's made for the most beautiful evening. And what a better way to spend a sunset than in the company of a herd of elephants. I certainly can't think of anywhere better to be. Just listening to the sounds of the bush. And the rustling of the elephants as they move through. Let me do one more loop and one more reposition. And see if we can get the mom and her baby as well. They're right there, they're just tucked away behind some of the bush there. Let's see if we can loop forward and just get a nice view again. And he's just doing some spring cleaning quickly. Reposition to get these ellies in our picture once again. Some interesting percussion going on around us as we move our way through the bush. We just navigate this, and then I'll answer a question from Joyce. To be quite a difficult block to navigate through, and although I don't want to make too much noise up close to them, I really don't want to scare the baby at all. But Joyce, you were wondering who can reach higher, an elephant or a giraffe at sort of adult height? And the answer is an elephant, but only just. So a full-grown male giraffe would probably have the same reach as a full-grown female elephant. But the male elephants have just a fractionally higher reach, or have recorded to have a slightly higher reach, and that's because they can actually stand up on their hind legs as well and extend their trunk all the way up to reach up just above the record height of a giraffe. So even with that very long tongue of a giraffe, the elephant still is a little bit higher. I wonder if that mommy's going to stay there, because then we have a perfect open patch to see her. Let me just give it a minute, see if she's going to keep moving or if she's going to stay. Here comes little one, and he's actually responsible for my answer to the next question. Now, Christopher from Arizona, you say that in all the times you've been watching Safari Live, you've never heard an elephant trumpet, and what would have to happen to cause that? Now, most of the time, the squealing sounds that I'm sure many of the regular viewers of the damn camera will have heard, that's babies. A lot of the time that's a baby squealing. They're often big for milk, and they also make a tremendous amount of noise when they feel as though they're being wronged. So those of you who saw us on the Sunset Safari quite a long time ago, where mom left baby alone for a while and baby got slightly nudged by an older cousin and promptly screamed like it was being murdered, and mom came racing back and immediately gave the older elephant a stern talking to in terms of elephant body language. So most of the time it is babies who either feel like they've been bumped or they're begging for milk. They make an incredibly high-pitched wailing sound. I wouldn't call it a trumpet, but females being alarmed or chased by males or pressured by males and feeling boxed in, they'll also trumpet and make quite a lot of noise. And if they want to communicate their displeasure with a human presence as well, I've also heard them trumpet, especially when they come racing towards us. Our precious little baby has tucked itself away once again, but we do have another visitor moving up to our left who's decided to come up nice and close to us. It's that young one who was behind us earlier. That big girl. Now if he stays like this, I've been asked many times about the differences between Asian and African elephants, and I've often been interrupted mid sort of train of thought. So I thought I'd try and continue that conversation, because I'm sure many new viewers would like to know. So starting with the enormous ear, that is one of the biggest differences, as well as the tusks, which for the most part both female and male African elephants have them, but most Asian female elephants don't, or have very, very basic, very tiny ones. That's one of the big difference. The other one is the tip of the trunk, and it's moving very fast at the moment, but there you can see how African elephants have two lips almost. 2 points at the end of the trunk, one at the front and one at the back, that they use like fingers, whereas Asian elephants only have one, and the other side is flat. Hello. Coming right up close to say hello. Now what I wanted to do while that elephant was standing next to us was to carry on that comparison. But he has, or she has, moved directly behind us, so we're not going to be able to do that. But she does. The other thing about Asian and African elephants, the highest point of an African elephant is their shoulder, and then their back dips down, almost in a sort of convex manner. Whereas with Asian elephants, the highest point is in the middle of their backs. They actually have curved backs. And there are other small differences. There's a couple of differences in terms of the number of toenails that they have. But they are such vastly different species that they actually cannot interbreed. So it's happened once in recorded history, and the offspring didn't survive for very long. But they are that far apart. They are completely separate species, and there's actually quite a great deal of differences between them. Our Ellies have moved off to the right of us now. They're sort of Well, it seems as though we have elephants here, there and everywhere this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. Scott is sitting at Sydney's Dam with some Ellies, so let's head across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, aren't we all getting absolutely spoilt this afternoon? Wherever we go there seems to be action. And now more elephants. What a beautiful scene this is, looking out onto Sydney's Dam. These Ellies are on the go slow and have been standing around in this clearing for quite some time now, which is abnormal for elephants. They're usually always on the move feeding. Obviously they need to sleep about 8 hours a day, but you don't get to see them relaxing quite like this very often. All different shapes and sizes. And there they go, that's a bit better. Parading off. Look at that youngster. Oh, photo bomb. That guy seems like he's in a rush. The serenity was then broken by a white truck, what we call a bakkie here in South Africa, B-A-K-K-I-E. Americans generally call them SUVs, I think. Anyway, let's hope he gets to where he's going to safely, and we're going to send you back to Jamie and try and continue rushing towards the hyena den to see if we can get any of the last lights over there. See you later.
Welcome back, and we're just shifting around to see if we can get another visual of these ellies before they disappear. But I think if we don't manage, or if we do and then they decide to move off, then we're going to leave it at that and start heading back towards the buffalo carcass and the possibility of hyena interaction. But let's just get one last visual of these ellies before we say goodbye. I think these ellies are definitely on a mission. I'm not sure where they're off to, but wherever they are, it's keeping them moving. They might be trying to catch up with the rest of the herd, because I've only seen these 4. So that could well be that the rest of the herd has moved on and then they're slowly making their way behind them. But what a beautiful, beautiful evening it has been. Okay. What have you spotted, Andrew?
I saw a wasp land over here.
Yes, there it goes. It's there on the paper bark acacia there. Oh, you're challenging yourself. Hope it's... there it is. Oh, there we go. Well done, Andrew. As it flutters around. Now you're challenging me as to what that is. Which particular wasp that was. Very sneaky.
Sorry about that.
That's quite alright. I've got no idea what particular wasp that was. It's quite difficult to tell when it's silhouetted in the light. But we are seeing lots of them moving around at the moment. They're busy making their nests and their various galls. They're just trying to provide for their larvae that they're going to lay, or their eggs that they're going to lay very soon. I almost wanted to guess, what are they called? Hold on. We spoke about them the other day, paper wasps.
Potter wasp.
Or a potter wasp. It could almost have been one of those, although I think that the thorax was a little bit thin. I think so. But it's a bit difficult to tell. We may never know. But we've still got all of those green shoots on that beautiful tree, and the flying wasps moving around a lot. I noticed when I was in my room earlier that there was a hornet looking to make a nest probably somewhere in the folds of my curtain or something. I'm not sure if she stayed or not. But as long as she keeps to her space and I keep to mine, she'll be a welcome visitor. I'm going to leave these elephants now. I'm not going to try and follow them any further in this thick block. All I'm going to do is make noise and disrupt them. And I think it's getting to that time of evening where we want to think about being back at that lion carcass. Not the lion carcass, sorry, the buffalo carcass being eaten by the lions, to avoid all states of confusion. Take that out of the camera's way. Thank you. Yes. I'm sure I had a much easier road in here than I have had out of it. Which way is the road, everybody? Does anybody know? Fairly certain it's this way. There we go. Now while Scott heads off in the direction of that newly located hyena den, we're going to head back to that buffalo carcass. I very, very strongly suspect that at some point tonight the hyenas are going to come to investigate that incredibly pungent dead buffalo. And it will be very interesting to see. It's only 2 lionesses defending it, so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen this evening. Now while I continue on my precarious route through the bushes to get back to our buffalo carcass, I believe that Scott has made his way to the hyena den. So while you look at some hyenas with Scott, I will navigate to the buffalo and I will be back with you a little bit later.
Well, sadly we have missed the sunset, but look at those beautiful colors. Welcome back, and I've just been listening to a very, very interesting update on the radio, and it's just come through now, so I don't think we're going to have time to make it there. It's quite a way away. But Shadow and her cub Sindile have been found on 2nd Windmill Road on Arethusa, which is basically directly north of the Arethusa Dam, a far distance away from where we left him at about 9:30 this morning. So she must have missioned back in the heat of today, and it was incredibly hot, all that way, probably about 2.5-3 miles to collect him, and then back to the kill. So they've been found there. Great news, but I don't know if we are going to have time to get there this evening. But at least they are doing well. They have reunited and they are feeding on a kill. I'm not too sure exactly what it is. I'm probably going to hear a few more updates shortly. But let's take a closer look. We are in luck, and there is one hyena so far that we've seen at the den. And it is very, very relaxed, as you can see. Can you hear? I don't recognize this individual. It's got perfect ears. Almost perfect. I've just noticed a chunk out of the top left ear. But I don't recognize this individual, and there may have been some shifts in the clan as to maybe who the dominant male is. Even though we can see what appears to be a scrotum at the rear end of this hyena, it could very well be a female. They've got very, very similar appendages. So I'm not sure who this is. It's acting almost as if it needs to get up, but it's not quite ready to. Picking its head up and then flopping it back down. 5 more minutes. It's going to be worth hanging around here. Maybe some of the younger cubs will come out to play. And this is my first time at the den, but thankfully Jandre is with me, and he says that this is usually the most active side of the den, and we did approach from the other side of the termite mound and didn't see any action there. So we've basically got about 300 degrees of the 360 degree radius covered so far, and I doubt there are any hyena that we've missed just on that small little section that we haven't seen yet. We're kind of now on the northwestern side, but the 2-track that approaches this den is basically pops out directly on the other side of where we are now. So the only little portion I haven't checked very carefully is somewhere over there, but this whole other side we've checked considerably, And it's interesting how they like to lie in the same spot. This small excavation almost that you can see it lying in, a little bowl almost, would have been created by the hyena. They'll dig it out with their feet and then lie on the soft, cool sand, often also urinating in that very same spot to leave some stories for the other hyena that come and use it. It's incredible how the animals do use urine and scent marking to tell stories and leave messages. It keeps listening out in the same direction, and when they do this it always kills me because we don't have a clue of what they are hearing. It could just be the leaves rustling in this gentle breeze, or possibly there's some other audio further away that we simply cannot hear. I cannot believe how far Shadow has moved in one day to collect her little cub. Not that little anymore, over a year of age. And well done to the Arethusa guides for tracking them down this evening. Just going to get on the radio quickly and ask Craig if there's any further updates on them. Craig, I caught most of that updates with Shadow. Do you know what bumper it is and whether it's hoisted? Okay, copy, thanks very much. I've just arrived at the Mnisikaya. There's one adult here. Negative at the Mnisikaya off Aubrey's, just one adult. So sadly Craig has not got the answer to either of the questions I asked him, whether or not it is hoisted or what kill exactly it is. Copy, thanks Craig. And he said he is on his way there, as I'm sure a lot of other vehicles are, and that's another factor that I did put into my equation when deciding whether or not to try and race. There's going to be a long queue of people trying to get into that sighting, and I don't want to get involved in queuing and putting any extra pressure on people who are already in that area. It's kind of luck of the draw with guiding, and if you are too far away it's almost rude to come rocketing in from miles off, and we need to maintain good relationships with all of the guides, so I prefer to guide responsibly and leave them to enjoy that sighting, and hopefully we'll be able to head off there first thing in the morning. Although it would be a bit of a surprise if Shadow has hoisted her kill, because a lot of the time in the recent past she hasn't been hoisting. And that means even though we may find her on kills in the daytime, the following morning we can go there and they can be gone, thanks to the friends that we are looking at now, the hyena. Aha, now speaking of hyenas stealing carcasses, Amy has just sent through an email asking a great question, and she would like to know if there's any chance that different hyena clans would join forces in order to overthrow lions, like the two Nkuhuma lioness on that buffalo kill that they've got. And as far as I'm aware, yes Amy, they will, interestingly enough, band together when there are these random scenarios like that, but it's not very commonly seen. Hyena often obey their boundaries and territories very strictly, and on some reports, now this is just what I've heard, I've never seen it, people have been seen following hyena who are chasing down their prey, and as soon as they get to one of their clan boundaries, they jam on brakes and let their prey run away. So there's two lessons about that. They do monitor and stick to their clan territories very strictly, and secondly, they also can hunt when need be. So not too sure what would happen here. I've never seen hyena clans join forces in the Sabi Sands, although I do know to the west of us on Elephant Plains there was about 20 hyena that was seen together chasing the Nkuhuma pride off a buffalo. It was the Nkuhuma pride and the Shumungwe pride. So I'm not too sure if that was one clan or two clans that joined together, but I know when they do hear the whooping and cackling of other clans, it may call in other clans into that area, and they know that it's in their best interest to get the lion away, and then they all have an opportunity to try and feed on as much of the carcass as they can. Naturally, there might be quite a lot of squabbling and fighting once they do overthrow the lions to see who gets the best feeding position, but I think they will certainly do that, and who knows, maybe it'll happen tonight with the Nkuhuma lioness. I wouldn't wish that on them, but it would be some great action to see. This individual I don't think is going to be helping though. Not if it carries on in this frame of mind. But maybe he's or she is just none the wiser. They are such unique animals, and as I just mentioned, I'm not sure if this is a male or a female, and Mari and Susie in Chicago would like to know a little bit more about hyena, and that is whether they are more closely related to the dog family or the cat family. Well, interestingly enough, they are more closely related to cats, even though their appearance is more dog-like. But they are in their own specific family. They don't fall into the Canidae family, the dog family, or the Felidae family, the cat family. They have got their own Hyenidae family. And that is why you may have heard us calling their youngsters cubs, not pups, because they are more cat-like than dog-like. I'm not too sure whether they do have a barbed penis like the cat family. I don't think they do. I think their mating is more dog-like, but it's a very, very unique procedure because the female actually has to invert her enlarged clitoris, which is usually exposed like a penis, and she has to invert it to obviously create a point or position or posture rather to receive the male. It's something that I've never seen, and it's not very well documented, but I think their mating will be more dog-like than cat-like. Now, earlier I mentioned that in that little bowl the hyena's lying in, they quite often urinate. And now Gregory's interested to know, do they ever defecate close to the den? And no, Gregory, usually they don't defecate in and around the den sites. It's used more around their clan boundaries and borders. So they'll use these latrines, these kind of these sites for defecating, which are known as latrines for carnivores and middens for the herbivores, and they'll do these in very set spots. I'll try and show you some. There was actually one very close to where we were looking to Sandile, where it's just littered with white droppings of the hyena. So you seldom see it around the den, but it's more in set spots, usually on clan boundaries. Okay, well, I'm not sure how much longer I can sit here and watch this hyena sleep for. I'm not sure what you guys think. if you want to stay a bit longer. I don't think any cubs are going to pop out this late in the evening, but let me know your thoughts. I personally don't think it's worth our while hanging around. Well, while you guys make up your mind as to what I should do, we're going to send you across to Jamie with the lions, and the first person to say stay or go is going to be the winner of the voting here. So let us know quickly and enjoy the lions with Jamie. Maybe there'll be some more hyena lurking over there.
Welcome back. And there you see the giant paws of one of our panting lionesses. And she's very hot and very full and very much right on top of us. When I first came into the sighting, we had both of them in view. The other female got up and moved towards the carcass, and she came and lay down right next to us. I mean, really right next to us, as in she's probably about 2.5 meters away from my back wheel, which means that for the moment this is where we are going to be sitting, because I can't reposition without forcing her up and away from us. So we're going to let her just relax and sleep off her big meal. But you can see how close she is to the vehicle. And if I try and start or do anything now, it's going to completely disturb her. So just know that the other female is over there. She is currently feeding on the carcass. And now we sit with our vigil and wait to see what happens as it starts to get dark and much, much cooler. Now you've been sitting with that adult hyena with Scott at the hyena den. And that is actually who we're waiting for while we're here with these lionesses. There's a very, very good chance with the amount of odor that buffalo carcass has increased in over the last 12 hours, I think there's a very, very good chance we might see some hyena action here tonight. And I'm not going to, as it gets dark, I'm not going to keep scouring around with a spotlight, because the creatures who are going to tell us when the hyenas are here are the lions, and they're going to be keeping a close eye. And we're looking at her now. She looks, apart from her reactions to the flies, she looks completely relaxed and flat. But as soon as the hyenas enter into the sighting, we'll be able to see a change in her behavior, her and her sister's behavior. There you go, you can see the other female feeding on the carcass at the back there. At the moment, we can't go there, short of disturbing the female that's basically parked herself under the back wheels. There you go, you can see her at the back chomping away at the carcass. Could even be the crunching sounds of her teeth that lead the hyenas into wherever these guys are, where this buffalo kill is stashed away in the bush. Here I can hear the crunching from here. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so we can hear it. Now I'm not sure which lioness this is. It's quite, oh there we go, it is this lioness that we looked at earlier, yesterday, at first at Gowrie Dam and then this morning and this afternoon, and we've had a bit of an opportunity to see the wound on her leg. Now I actually hadn't seen that one on that side. That's the first time I've seen the puncture wound there. But she does also have one on the inside of her thigh. That's interesting. I didn't see that original one before. I wonder if it hasn't been opened up slightly. But Elizabeth, you were wondering what the condition of the wound is. Well, there we go. It's not too serious. Looking at it now, although that puncture wound I hadn't noticed before on the outside of her leg. I'd only seen the one on the inside of her back left leg. She's very conveniently... There we go. Okay. Oh, no, girl. No, roll this. She's rolled over. Elizabeth, it's not too serious at all. It is a deep puncture wound. It's broken all the layers of skin. But it isn't going to cause her any long-lasting damage. She's not limping in any way. She's not favoring that leg in any way. It's going to be fine. These animals are so incredibly resilient. It's mind-boggling. A big girl. Is the grass just not very comfortable with such a full belly, huh? Got to do lots of rolling around. There we go, she's decided she's going to shift to a different position. Oh, flop down in front of me. Okay, that does give us a nice opportunity to loop around. Just see that other lioness feeding for now, while she is feeding on the carcass. Is she still there? Not sure where she went. Let's go investigate. That looks like a very still carcass to me. Let's go see where she might have gone. Try and navigate out of here carefully. There's a couple of holes that we were navigating earlier. Now I know that you were at the hyena den with Scott, and I've mentioned that I'm wondering if tonight is not going to be the night that the hyenas come across here and challenge the lionesses to their kill. And Khada, you were wondering how far are we from where the hyena den is. We are... Oh, that's a tricky calculation. We're quite far. We're in the sort of northern central area of Djuma. The hyena den is in the northwestern corner of Aubrey's Road. You give me a moment, I'm trying to do some rough calculations in my head. And I think we're probably about, in a straight line, about 3 kilometers away. But that's nothing for an adult hyena to cover in a night. We've spoken many times about how much distance they can travel and what phenomenal amount of stamina they have. There's our lioness. Oh, there's the smell. Quite a few more maggots in there already. Try and get this spotlight, just give us a little bit of extra light without shining it right in your eyes. And the noise of the flies is absolutely unbelievable. It's really quite incredible. Find a way to light up the inside of that carcass without being too shaky. It really is, it's like, I don't know, it's like being outside a beehive almost, the noise from the flies. My goodness me, that's quite revolting. Sure. I have a very strong stomach, and I'm quite used to seeing various kills. But there's something about the positioning of this one that's directing, it's almost funneling the smell towards us. How are you doing back there, Andrew? Are you okay?
It's disgusting.
It is absolutely horrendous. And it's difficult to know. You kind of want to choose between breathing through your nose, at which point you get the full impact of the smell, or breathing through your mouth, at which point you get the taste of it in the back of your mouth. And I think that Andrew and I will be smelling this for a while to come after the sunset safari. She's loving it though, you can see, tucking right in, licking away the bits of meat from around the ribs. She's just stuck her head right in the cavity there. This is going to be a test of endurance for Andrew and myself. It is, those white bits at the back there are the maggots forming, and they've formed very, very quickly because it has been so warm, although I do think that's a good indication of how old the carcass is. But we were talking about this morning and we saw the beginnings of those white dots coming through. There's a chance she might eat some of the maggots, although I think she's trying to get to the meat at the back. She's still managing to consume some of them at the same time. She's looking quite happy with herself. Doesn't see what all the fuss is about. This is perfectly acceptable as a food source. Sorry guys, as she's chomping away, Andrew's just trying to get hold of me on the radio. Andrew, standing by. That's affirmative. They are still with the Signori Bamba. It's northeast of that. Probably your best approach is to actually come from the big Jackalberry on Gari Cut line and to move through onto the other side of the drainage line. That's where you'll be able to see the most off-road tracks that have made a path through. Copy that, no problem. She's decided an approach from the opposite side is the way to go. I was just letting Andrew know how to get into this particular sighting. It is very tricky. It's an incredibly thick block, and if you didn't know the path we used, you probably would struggle to find it. Tugging away, trying to pull that incredibly thick skin away from the ribs so she can get to the meat underneath. I'm going to try and shuffle forward fractionally so we can see a little bit better. Oh, she actually might come around to the back there. Oh, fly in the mouth. She's going to settle down. I'm still going to try and shuffle forward slightly. I think we might get a slightly better view. There's something of a bush impediment in front of me, but it's never stopped us before. I don't know if that's any better, Andrew.
I think so.
Cool. There we go. At least we've got a slight gap there between the trees. It has certainly made the smell worse. She's decided to go for the back end. Oh my word, my eyes are actually watering. girl. I'm going to tackle it from that side again. Okay. Yummy. Dinner. And this is quite an important show of how a lion is such a survivor, and these lionesses in particular. They are feeding on a fairly rotten carcass because it is just the two of them, and they absolutely cannot afford, after all they've been through, to pass up an opportunity of a good meal and having full bellies for a couple of days. Now, she's feeding on a carcass, as I said, that is fairly old and fairly rotten, but she's doing it as a way to survive, and that's partly in response to all of the chaos and disruption that the Birmingham boys have caused in their lives. And although they are now brokering for peace, Ruth, you were wondering how far away the Birmingham boys are with those other lionesses that they've been seen mating with. And they're probably, if they are where I think they are at the moment, it is of course impossible to tell, they might have moved, but they're probably about 4 or 5 kilometers away, which is, what is that in miles? About 2.5 miles, 2.2 miles. Yes, that seems about right. I'm not sure exactly how far into the properties south of our boundary they are, so I can't give you an exact answer, but that seems about right to me. Obviously being kept quite distracted by the Birmingham boys, or by the attentions of the females mating with those Birmingham boys. Now, she definitely would have consumed some of those maggots that we can see, which are those white blotches at the back there. And just in the same way that she's more than capable of feeding on a slightly rotten carcass, she's not going to have too much happen to her in terms if she does ingest the maggot eggs. Her stomach acid will destroy them. So she's not going to be in any way unhealthy. She might get a little bit of a runny tummy. I have seen lions with diarrhea quite frequently, as well as occasionally vomiting and eating grass to respond to an upset stomach. And I think it's time for us to go back and see what that other female is up to and whether or not she's moved. Because quite honestly, at this point, I'm not sure Andrew or I can handle it too much longer. We might need a breath of fresh air for a moment before we return to the site of the smell. So whilst we reposition and I regain my sea legs, so to speak, Scott has a wonderful chameleon to show you, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Do the upwards reveal. Welcome back, everyone. Chandra and I were just planning how to reveal this wonderful little chameleon to you before we got ambushed by the link. But good to have you with us again, and I believe there's some fairly gory sights across with the Nkuhuma lioness. It just goes to show how important food is out here. How cute is this little chameleon? It's probably only an inch or so long. And I love the way they can move their eyes. It's really incredible. Sadly, from this angle we can only see one of the eyes, but they can move them omnidirectionally. So one eye can be looking up, the other eye can be looking down. And I wonder how their little brain processes those two images. Us, it's easy, we only have to process one. But they're chopping and changing between two different feeds. I guess no different to Nikki and Jess sitting in the final control room getting two feeds from the two vehicles. We're not going to spend too long here because they are not nocturnal and we don't want to attract any unnecessary attention to it. And I'm sure you've had a good enough view of it already, and we can now let it fall asleep again, and maybe we can return here in the morning and see if we can track it down during the daylight. One thing that I hope to see and show you this summer is a chameleon hunting, shooting out their long rubbery tongue onto an insect. So that's a goal of mine for this summer. And the best way to do that will be to find a chameleon at night and return and spend some time with it during the day. Well, you're going to stay with us now. We're not going to rush you back to Jamie, so we just need to reverse out of this interesting scenario that we've got ourselves into. I'm parked in a bush. I'm shortly going to be leaving now. Hello everyone. And just moments before we found the chameleon, I said to Jean, okay, it's time to find either a chameleon or a bush baby. So now we've got one of those two done, and this is a good area to find bush babies in. I've seen quite a few moving here on night drives. So let's hold thumbs. They're such awesome little animals. Big eyes, and they have this incredible ability to be able to leap meters through the air in the pitch black. So that is next on the menu, or at least what we would like to see, but there's a lot of other animals that we would be pleasantly surprised to bump into now. Porcupine being one of them. They're nocturnal, and we've never shown you one since I've been with Safari Life, and that's approaching a year now. That little chameleon, I think, would have actually been born last year. They're probably about half the size of that, the new hatchlings. And let's hope we do manage to find you some of those this season. Speaking of animals that we don't get to see very often, Maureen in Michigan is interested to know, when will the wildebeest return? And Maureen was obviously watching this time last year in the summer months and noticed that there was a lot more wildebeest around than during the winter months, and they're probably going to start returning any time from now, as there's a lot more better grazing in this area. And she's not only interested in the wildebeest, but also any smaller mammals, jackals, mongooses. Jackals and mongooses won't migrate, so they're going to have just been around. We just haven't been in the right place to show them to you. There will be movements, of course, of the animals, but you can't really call them migrations, and it's more shifts in territory. There used to be a pair of side-striped jackal that we saw quite regularly here in the quarantine clearings, but they only made this their home for a very short period of time before moving off. So the main animals we can expect to see returning that have been away during the summer months are birds that are going to migrate from all parts of Africa and even further abroad than that, Europe and Asia. And then the zebra and wildebeest will be the main mammals returning. Very close to the quarantine clearings, and I'm hoping that when we get there we may find a white-tailed mongoose that's been lurking around in that area. Another animal we could possibly bump into is a snake, and the first snake that I managed to show this season was just off to our right. And Brenda in Washington is interested to know about snakes and whether they will actually feed on dead carcasses that they come across. And not that I'm aware of, Brenda. For me, all snakes that I know of will feed on live prey. Now, if anybody knows of a snake that is happy to feed on carrion, please let us know, because that would be very interesting. But I'm fairly convinced that all of the snakes that I know of have to catch and kill their own prey. They are not scavengers and will rely on their hunting techniques to find food. Like I said, I'm sure there may be some of you that may know something different, and I'd be very happy if you let us know about that. No sign of the white-tailed mongoose just yet. Could pop up at any stage. And another question through on the topic of snakes has been sent through from Kim on Twitter, and she would like to know if I'm worried about driving through the bush and the fear that a snake may pop out or possibly even fall out of a tree that we may be driving past. And Kim, I personally am not. I love snakes, so no issues for me, and I'd actually be very pleasantly surprised to see more snakes than we do get to see out here. So that should answer your question. Hopefully we will be seeing a lot more snakes, and what we need to remember is that even though some snakes are highly venomous, most of the time they're going to avoid us at all costs. Especially in these big vehicles, they can hear us, feel us, and sense us coming from a long distance. Anyway, we will be sure to keep you updated on any snake sightings we see behind the scenes, or even whilst we live on drive with you guys. And we've just got a message through, thanks very much, I think it's from Janet, reminding me to call my father, so thank you for that reminder. It's been so much fun being out here on this incredible afternoon. The weather and the scenery and the clouds that we got to experience was something that we haven't experienced for quite some time now. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and thankfully for you guys it's not over yet. We're going to send you back to Jamie. Well done, Jandre. And thanks to Nikki and Jess in the final control room. We'll see you bright and early for the Sunrise Safari.
Oh, welcome back. And we're sitting blissfully upwind of the buffalo carcass, being serenaded by the fiery-necked nightjar and one rather confused Cape turtle dove, who apparently still thinks it's daytime and was calling just a few moments ago. But what an interesting afternoon it has been. Impressive that these lionesses can still feed on this rather rancid buffalo, and it does go to show how incredibly opportunistic lionesses can be. But it is going to be interesting to return here for the sunrise safari and to see if these lionesses are still around, or if they're going to try and make a connection with the rest of the Pride members. Bless you. She's just got a fly up her nose over there by the carcass. Anyway, a big thank you to Andrew for all of his fantastic camera work, and to Nikki and Jess, who are in FC, keeping us on our toes, and to Eugene for all of his technical genius. And thank you, the viewers, for your questions and your comments. It's great to have you on board with us as always. So have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening wherever you are in the world, and we will catch you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. We'll see you then.